fully realize the extension and weight of the story that the song is telling and the emotion behind it, even beyond the lyrics and the melody and everything else that you've built to this point in it.
Yeah, it's almost like taking it from like you've created this 3-dimensional piece of work, and now this 4th dimension is reaching beyond what you can perceive, and it's that cool aspect of like just going back to like even the amp that we referred to that we used on your solo record, Adam. Like just those small details that like now, besides the record being a record and it being its own piece of work, you now have this memory tied to it that, for better or worse, now it's ingrained in that project, and like the agony, the strife, the happiness, the joy, like that's all now interwoven into this piece of work, and that's sometimes really fun. It's sometimes really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be a journey. I mean, Tom, like I'd actually love you. If you wouldn't mind to share some of the stuff that you're doing with your album right now, because I think you've taken a really incredibly creative approach and taken it even outside the studio and done, a lot of cool things where you've spent some really, really solid time, conceptualizing a lot of elements that are going to be in the record. And I think they'd be such great examples to share. Cause
of course. Well, thanks, Case. For this one tune, I actually had percussion extraordinaire Adam Ackerman play some rocks up at Ringing Rock State Park up in I think it's Montgomery County, I believe. And so like a lot of the albums about nature, and it's about some happiness within nature. And this park had this riverbed that dried up and now houses hundreds and maybe even thousands of rocks. And if you hit them with a hammer, they ring and pitch. And so we created this cool, almost like a Dan Deacon-esque piano type thing out of these percussion elements of these rocks, and it's really cool. And I think it, like, for me at least, the timbre and the meaning behind that trip, I think, reflects itself onto the meaning and meaning of that song to me. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even necessarily about someone hearing something and knowing exactly what that sound is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that means more and brings the project home in terms of a sense of artistic fulfillment and closure on that song, on what the project is about, right? And I think that's like a beautiful way to kind of do that, and have it be meaningful to you. And then if, that's something you can share later on about it that does make it unique, but also makes it special because that is, sometimes we look at like the songs and how to tie what they're about even further into it. And in this case, like you said, they're drawing on a lot of themes about nature. And that's such a beautiful way to bring that into the record in an organic sense. And it is very unique because of it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just... Yeah, because it's nobody else has that sound, right? Nobody else went out there and did that and captured that. Just like even if it's a mistake or something feeding back in the studio or whatever that you use, nobody else is going to have that exact same thing. So if it works and does something and elevates the record and everybody looks around, it's like, yo, that's kind of cool. like then have the courage to say, yeah, I want that on the record, you know, or not like, oh, that was a mess up. Can we redo this?
Well, let me even get into the idea of like, you know, less precious recordings and that kind of thing. Like I can't tell you how often in the studio these days, especially with pop productions and stuff like that, I'm busting out my, like, not my iPhone because I don't have an iPhone, but we're busting out an iPhone like every session to like capture like cool little moments. If it's like, you know, a bottle cap on the floor, or like a can opening, or like, you know, there's somebody, like a clap that somebody has, and like, you know, even like if you're looking in the scope of like modern music these days, I mean, like the like internet money kids are like, they're doing like 90% of their records with iPhone recordings and like sampled drums and synths and stuff like that. You know, like it's crazy how much you can get done with like that kind of shorthand, and that sort of like looseness and the lower grade of the recording adds a certain kind of you know, familiar magic to records that I think people really vibe with and really relate to. And, you know, while that's like, you know, maybe the easiest thing that's available to you, like the fact that it's a recording that you're making physically happen in front of you keeps it totally unique. So long as you're not sharing it with people, which, I mean, there's a whole separate conversation on that where, you know, sharing your stuff can be good, sharing it can be more precious, and it really comes down to you as an artist as what you want to do with it. But like, you know, so taking stuff outside the studio, I feel like is really fun. Or like, you know, Tom, I know you did an iPhone recording with like a broken Wurlitzer.
Oh yeah. Oh, this thing. All right. So Retro City Studios.
Shouts out.
Yes, shouts out. They have this Wurlitzer that is on loan from their tech, and it's the coolest Wurlitzer I've ever played. And I'm not the coolest, greatest piano player, but like I know what the keys do. But as far as what makes it so cool is that when you hold the sustain pedal, it opens up all the tines and it's feeding back. And you can control that level of feedback with your volume on it. So, like, session ended, we were wrapping up, everyone left, and I accidentally stayed for a little bit longer than I would care to admit. Just listen and
That
just
tracks.
like, yeah, and just like being engulfed in this Wurlitzer. And now that we have this on record, Retro, if you're
not allowed.
yeah,
to
I need that Wurlitzer.
Yep.
So
We're coming for it.
yeah, we're coming for it.
Might be the long con.
Long con.
Might be a decade. Might be two.
It's a long con I can run. Conran is my last name.
Oh, come on.
Yep.
That's
Such a
You know what? In honor of the last few episodes, I am going to layer and double the sad trombone sounds.
You gonna bust out the trombone, dude?
I am. I'm going to play over the existing sad trombone sample that I've been using, just because it warrants that.
Yeah. So anyway, through the iPhone across the room, and played the Wurlitzer in classic me fashion. I played it a fifth above where I needed to play it. So when I brought it into the studio, I had to pitch shift it down or up, I forget which, and use that with a monophonic pitch shifter. Shouts out Sound Toys, a little altar boy. And it did some crazy stuff to the stereo field because it was a polyphonic source in stereo. So it was doing some wild stuff. And I think it makes a really cool vibe for the track. It's it helps open the track up to just this weird, distorted, glitchy thing.
Yeah.
Totally. And I mean, you get into like making space on a record with stuff like this. I mean, we've done that multiple ways where, you know, if you want to talk about doing it like organically, you know, for for the Early Lover of Mankind record, like one of the first records that we did in the studio when it opened, you know, we recorded Jason singing in the hallway because our hallway has no treatment in it. Like, it's just a big reverberant hallway, and we put one mic in front of him, and then we put one mic at the end of the hallway.
Yep.
And that's the reverb that you hear on that opening line, you know, and, you know, I dare you to find that plugin. Like, it doesn't exist.
Right.
Maybe it should.
I believe the hallway was tuned, like it was in... like it was like in E in some capacity.
It was just perfect for his voice because he has such that like big boisterous voice in general. So he was able to excite the hallway in such a way that like was really musical. Or like we've even recorded like electric guitar like down our staircase to our basement, you know, to get like a different sound out of that. And we accidentally broke a microphone that way, but that's okay. We got a new one.
Right.
You know, so like you can create space in the physical sense. I know like Eric Valentine is right. Did I get that name right? The producer. Cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I was crediting him correctly. He's an amazing producer. He did like the Smash Mouth records, and like how he got that Smash Mouth record sounds so good. Like don't knock it till you try it. But you know, to get those classic surf rock tones, he like put 3 amps like 20 feet away from a microphone, and like and he had each one of the amps set up differently so that it would create like a certain feeling. And you know, the amalgamation of the 3 is that like guitar tone, which is amazing. And again, I highly recommend you go check it out. But you know, so like by creating the space physically instead of trying to do it in the box afterwards or something like that, you're going to make like such a more memorable piece of music by the end of it.
The one thing that I do want to touch on right now is with the iPhone and voice memos, look like a weird acoustician and go around and clap random places. And you're like, Tom, why do you want to clap and record voice memos? Well, I'm here to tell you. Sorry, I wish you could see my hands. I'm doing my...
the folks who watch the YouTube.
Look at that.
They can hear it in the voice.
Yeah,
it's coming eventually.
Yeah.
Boy, have I got a story for you. Hold it, Ron. What? Wait, there's more.
Set it and forget it.
Thank you.
So, thank you. So, go around, clap. Get that, clap a little far away from the microphone so you don't distort it. But you can toss that into a convolution reverb and now create your own IR responses. I create up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in I trespass it on some allegedly
hypothetically
on an old abandoned factory that had a giant 200-foot cement tower, and it had the coolest reverb ever. And it sounded like a synth because it just reverberated so crazy. And it used it on a couple records as a reverb plugin because I dumped it into Logic's IR.
Well, Tom, if you want to get into weird reverbs, I mean, like your piano reverb for drums is like one of the coolest things I've ever
very
seen.
cool technique. Coming down the pipeline.
Tape down some keys in
that sympathetic ringing.
Yeah, in tune with your song or songs or part of the song if you're modulating a lot,
or completely in tune with your song,
or that if that's what you're going to.
Wilhelm screamy.
And throw a mic. It works really well in an upright piano. Throw a mic inside. And then compress the living fuck out of it. And it put the piano in different spots of the room. If it's in a corner, you might get some more like low end bass boominess out of it, which tends to work well. But
damn, side note, I wish every time I pulled up an 1176 or just like LA2A, it's like compress. I wish I had Tom just there giving me that when it's just like turn off bypass, compress.
But the other cool thing is like if you like expand it or use like sometimes it's expanding, sometimes it's negative compression ratios. Like the DBXs have the negative compression ratios. The Eventide Omnipressor has expansion and also